Hello and welcome everybody as you're trickling in, making dinner, walking the dog, doing homework, who knows, but we appreciate you being here tonight.
Starting happy hour.
I'm finishing my tea that I have microwaved like 4 times today. One of those days.
You sound like me. I made Jamaica and then I looked at I was boiling it and it boiled down halfway in the pot.
Look, it's another Deb Anderson.
I have this really cool porcelain mug, and it comes with, it's not here right now, but it comes with like this it's a charger, so you can keep it. I keep it on my desk so it keeps my coffee warm. And then it shuts off after 90 minutes if you haven't like moved it. So there's times where I don't move it and then there's like coffee grounds at the bottom. It's horrible.
Interesting.
But it's a great, and it's also a phone charger.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
You're going to have to put that like link in the chat. For right now, just so everybody knows, we're going to start muting everybody just for this first general presentation so that we can be respectful of people who want to hear. And then when we go into our individual Zoom rooms, we will unmute everybody and we will all just chat and have a Zoom happy hour. But anyway, we're muting you. Today's agenda is pretty packed. It's informal. The very first part is going to be a great presentation on our mission from Dr. Elizabeth Edgerly and one of our stellar advocacy and walk volunteers, Tom, and you will probably have questions for them. So since we don't have a ton of time for Q&A, please chat them all in and we will answer them in the chat while the rest of the presentation is happening. And sort of to just warm up as we are not really, able to mix and mingle with a glass of wine like we usually would at one of these events. We do want to get to know you a little bit. So if you have a connection to the cause that you're willing to share with us, maybe we call it who you walk for, type that into the chat. We'd love to see their names or what your connection is. And also, where are you zooming in from? Because we have a huge geography tonight. So like I'm in Danville, we've got staff in Berkeley and Santa Rosa, all over the place. So just those are little ways that we can get to know each other just by the chat. And I'm gonna kick it over to Elizabeth.
Thank you, Brittany. Hi, everybody. It's so great to be here tonight. I'm actually up in Sonora tonight, and there is snow on the ground, which is mind-boggling to me. But it's really a pleasure to be here with you to talk about the mission of the Alzheimer's Association. And truly, the Walk to End Alzheimer's supports the entire mission of the organization and makes everything possible. So I wanted to just share with you a bit about what that is. Why are we doing all the work that we're doing? Well, first off, the vision of the Alzheimer's Association is a world without Alzheimer's and all other dementias. Many of you are here because you have lost family members or you are caring for family members who have Alzheimer's. In my case, my mother died with Lewy body dementia, and we, the Alzheimer's Association, are here for everyone to help make that journey better, to have high quality life for the individual who is experiencing dementia, and also to change the future for millions. You saw some statistics flash by there. There are over 5 million Americans living with some form of dementia. And unfortunately, I'm sure you've heard, the number is getting larger. And that's because we're all living longer. And unfortunately, Alzheimer's isn't stopping. If anything, it's getting bigger and bigger. So we know we have some challenges before us. The mission of the Alzheimer's Association has 3 components. The first is advancing research, and it's research on identifying who has dementia or who's going to get dementia caused by Alzheimer's, for example. And then how do we intervene and actually stop the disease in its tracks or better yet, prevent it altogether. And there's even research on caregiving and interventions for those who are living with a loved one with dementia. What can we do to help make their lives better? How can we improve that quality of life as we're waiting for there to be a disease-altering drug in the pipeline? So we are the largest private nonprofit funder of Alzheimer's and related dementia science in the world. And so if you are involved with us, you own that. You own a piece of that solution, hopefully, for future generations. A second part of our mission is to promote risk reduction. What can we all be doing to reduce our risk of developing Alzheimer's or cognitive impairment? And so we're actively engaging in science around that and sharing results when they become available. We're also looking at early identification. One thing you may or may not know is that half of all people with dementia are never diagnosed, which means they certainly didn't get help from us, and they often didn't get very good care from their primary care doctors or health systems. And it's a real struggle. So we need to identify people and identify them early, because the drugs that are being studied are most effective and perhaps only effective in the early stages. The last piece of our mission that the walk is supporting is increasing access to quality care. And so that's both the care and support that you see on the slide here that we provide. We have a 24/7 helpline, support groups, classes, conferences. We are there to help people know that they are not alone and to learn from those who've come before them so that they can provide the best quality of care. And as I've mentioned many times, best quality of life for the person living with dementia. Let's see, have I missed anything else? Public policy. Now I know we have Tom Potspeech is going to talk with us about advocacy and public policy. Tom, before I turn it over to you, I want to mention one other piece here, and that is diversity and inclusion. We are seeing tremendous issues around disparities, health disparities, in terms of people with dementia having even less access to diagnosis and good quality treatment, and in some instances, increased risk of developing dementia. So we see that diversity and inclusion and really equity and access to care is fundamentally critical if we want to create this world without Alzheimer's and all other dementias. So now I'm going to turn it over to Tom because he's going to talk about our public policy and advocacy work. So Tom, go for it.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Hi, I'm Tom Potspeech, and I am an Alzheimer's Association advocate. And I am also the co-ambassador to Speaker Pelosi's office through the Alzheimer's Impact Movement, or AIM. So what is AIM? AIM is the advocacy affiliate of the association. We are advocates at both the state and federal levels, and our teams are made up of fantastic volunteer advocates across the nation who have all been impacted by Alzheimer's or dementia in their lives. We are all united by a strong passion to help those who are currently living with Alzheimer's or dementia and to help support their caregivers, and ultimately to find a cure for Alzheimer's and all other dementias. We turn our passion into action by advocating our legislators in both Sacramento and Washington, D.C. to address the needs of our community and for continued robust funding of Alzheimer's and dementia research at the NIH. Through the strong advocacy efforts of our volunteers, we have seen a 7-fold increase in NIH funding for Alzheimer's and related dementia research over the last 10 years to $3.1 billion for fiscal year 2021. The significant increase in funding is only possible through all of the advocating our volunteers due to educate our legislators on the serious public health issue Alzheimer's disease and other dementias are for the nation. In addition to a substantial increase in funding over the past 10 years, we have made significant impacts at the federal level in 2020, helping those living with Alzheimer's as well as their caregivers. Some of our federal wins for 2020 include passage of key provisions of the Younger Onset Alzheimer's Act, the Promoting Alzheimer's Awareness to Prevent Elder Abuse Act, and the Hope for Alzheimer's Act, which were all signed into law in 2020, which you may not have heard about because it didn't make the mainstream news, but it was done. In addition, we had the $300 million increase to the NIH budget for Alzheimer's and dementia research, and $15 million to continue to implement the BOLD Act. After a very successful, after a very successful 2020, the association is finalizing our legislative priorities for 2021. One of our primary focuses will be to reform the healthcare system so that when a person is diagnosed with Alzheimer's or another dementia, they receive the proper planning and care to navigate the healthcare system. In addition, we will continue to ask for robust research funding at the NIH, as continued funding is essential to finding a cure. We will also ask for continued support of the BOLD Act to build out our public health infrastructure to effectively address Alzheimer's in our communities. As we get ready to reform the healthcare system, we would also love to hear your story on how Alzheimer's has impacted your life, as well as your experience or your loved one's experience navigating the healthcare system after receiving an Alzheimer's diagnosis. So if you'd like to share your story, please go to the link here at the bottom left of this slide. Possibly we can sling that into chat as well for you all. It is case sensitive, by the way. Also, if you're interested in learning more about AIM or want to become a volunteer advocate, go to alzimpact.org/volunteer. You can fill out our application form and introduce yourself to our public policy staff by phone or email. You can also receive text alerts by texting AIM to 52866. You will receive legislative updates and actions you can take with your legislators. Together, we will end Alzheimer's. Thank you. Next, we have Deanna Wong, who will lead us in our mission moment.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deanna Wong. I have been involved with the East Bay Walk to End Alzheimer's for almost 5 years now. I can't believe it's already been 5 years. So the reason I walk is in honor of my father, David Wong, who I lost to Alzheimer's in late 2016. Just to share a little bit about my story, our Alzheimer's journey started about 5 years before my father's passing. And I remember really clearly having this conversation with my mom about, changes that she had seen in my dad. And it started off with these really simple things like, before he used to be the one to pay at the cash register, but now he would literally just open his wallet and let my mom pull the money out. Or things like when they went to a restaurant, he no longer really looked at the menu. He would just tell my mom, hey, I'll just have whatever you're having. And I think what we learned later is that my dad was amazingly adept at hiding his symptoms and sort of getting around things that he could no longer do. He was a pretty proud guy and he didn't want to admit that there was a problem. The unfortunate part of that is that by the time we realized there was a problem, things had progressed pretty far along. And so to say that we were unprepared for Alzheimer's, I think would be an understatement. We really had no idea what this disease was about. It wasn't in our family. So, we were kind of behind the 8 ball, and Alzheimer's was always one step ahead of us. I would say that as my father's cognitive skills started to decline, he became more dependent and more really needing my mom's help. And she went pretty much from, happy retiree to, full-time caretaker pretty much overnight. And that really started to take a toll on her. It was something she was not prepared for. She went from, a pretty easygoing person to someone who just lived in a constant state of high anxiety. She started to experience depression. And I got to the point where I was more concerned about my mom as the caretaker than really I was about my dad, just because it was taking such a toll on her. So in a move of sort of desperation, you know, I was trying to figure out what to do to help her. And so I looked up a local support group, an Alzheimer's support group. And this was something that we had never considered, never been part of a support group, wasn't even something we really wanted to do, but we were so desperate, and I was so desperate to help my mom that I convinced her to go with me. And I would say that was really a game changer for us. We went to this group, and, you know, we sat in a circle, and as people started to share, it was just amazing. These people that were sharing their stories, and they were stories that sounded like our stories that we had never shared with anyone. And we just felt like, oh my gosh, these people understand what we're going through, and they can relate. And that made a huge difference. I know as I was sitting there with my mom, I remember thinking, oh, I don't want to share, you know, I'm just going to listen to these people. And of course, by the time it got to us, you know, we just started having this catharsis. We were crying. It was kind of our worst nightmare. We were crying in front of strangers, but, you know, it just felt so good to find people that you could relate to, that understood. And the really awesome part of it is that at the end of the session, these people came up, and not only were they really warm and supportive, but they gave us all sorts of recommendations like, hey, have you tried this place? I found this program to be really great. And so through that conversation, you know, we learned about a daycare program that my father ended up attending. And then shortly after that, a memory care facility that we eventually ended up moving him to. So just through like making those connections, it made such a difference. And I would say, you know, that really changed us, because once we knew how to ask for help, it was almost like a muscle we had to develop. So, you know, we started reaching out and using other resources that the association offered. So I actually had my mom call the hotline a couple of times when we just didn't know what to do. And, you know, not only did they give her good advice, but they were someone who could listen without the stress of like a family member. Because obviously when I would talk to her, we would feed off of each other's stress. But this was a way of getting someone to talk to that could provide advice and support. So, you know, from that point, I think that really changed kind of how we approached things. So overall, I would say, you know, I walk in honor of my dad and the experience that my family went through. But the reason I volunteer is because I really believe in the programs that the Alzheimer's Association put on and support. Because it made a difference. It really made a difference to us. And just finding people to talk about these things with, it's such a disease that it really made a difference. So, you know, I believe that there will be a cure for Alzheimer's, but I know that those things take time. So until that day comes, you know, I believe that we need these programs to support people like my mom, like myself, who are caregivers and are struggling with this disease. So thanks for listening to my story. And from that, I will pass it to Mark, who's one of our board members.
Thank you, Deanna. Can everyone hear me fine? Good. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Deanna, thank you for that story. And I saw all the chats as you were speaking that it resonates with everyone. So again, thank you. Everyone knows that we're all here because of a common cause. And we're also here because the walk transcends many of the 5 commitments that Elizabeth shared early on. Some of them being advocacy, some being research. And for me, it was really care and support. Similar to Deanna, I started out in 2016 where my brother passed away. He had a combination of Down syndrome and Alzheimer's. And so he passed away in 2016. My first walk in honor of my brother John was in 2017 in San Francisco. However, I reside in Marin and Napa, so I became with Mayor Dunbar, who happens to be on this call today. Thank you, Mayor Dunbar, in Neontville, where we support Napa and also Sonoma Marin. And shortly thereafter, I went on the board of the Alzheimer's Association of Northern California and Northern Nevada. And it's been a quite uplifting experience and also educating me along the way as I still improve my capabilities of understanding of the disease. Well, in 2020, we had COVID. And we all had been accustomed to going to on-premise type of walks. In March timeframe, I would say, I know for me, panicked a little bit. How were we able to achieve our goals in 2020? Well, fortunately, even though COVID and the shelter-in-place activities, it allowed us to pivot quite quickly. And all of you on this call today really helped a lot. We raised more than $3.5 million in 2020. That is awesome. So hats off to everyone. And you know that that money goes to support our communities and those who really depend upon us to further the cause to end Alzheimer's. After 25 years of this event, communities in the Bay Area were really fortunate to have friends and family and sponsors to help us pursue our goal of the end to Alzheimer's and other dementia. I can tell you one thing, it means a lot to my family, it means a lot to me, and I'm just energized seeing that there are now 93 people here today and 65 chats so far. But with the help of the volunteers and the marketing efforts of the communities and everyone, and including the dedicated staff, my hat's off to all of you and the faith-based and diversity inclusion type communities that we serve. But in order to grow, we have to expand our reach. We need to increase support through no corporate partnerships. And let me pause there for a moment because I'm very much interested in that area. Why? Because as we all know, we have day jobs. And having a day job, trying to deal with a caregiver and all the emotional ups and downs, not to mention the financial challenges of caregiving, sponsors help a lot because it does impact their employees. We aim to connect companies, big and small, to educate them about employee caregivers, like I just mentioned, how to handle their aging workforce, the burdens of the sandwich generation, the impact of dementia on the economy, and also the corporate bottom line. And in return, we hope that they will support our program. And Mayor Dunbar, thank you again. I'm focusing on you a lot because of the Napa walk. Thank you again. But all of those people from Silicon Valley to Fairfield, all around the Bay Area, this is very important. We have great partnerships and they're improving with Cisco and Salesforce, but we just scratched the surface and we now need a lot more. So thank you very much for being here. Again, thank you. And as they say, let's get walking in 2021. And let me turn it over to Andine.
Thank you so much, Mark. And thank you, Deanna. Thank you to Tom. You are our stellar volunteers who represent thousands and thousands of volunteers across the nation coming together for this amazing movement called the Walk to End Alzheimer's. So without further ado, we're getting to the fun part of the night. We want to help you learn more about what we do, which is the Walk to End Alzheimer's in 6 of our Greater Bay Area communities. So as you see on the slide, we've got Silicon Valley, San Francisco, the East Bay, Sonoma Marin, Solano, and Napa. So what we're hoping is that when we open the breakout rooms, there'll be a little menu in the lower right-hand corner that says more. You can select your breakout room from there. First of all, you can start with a walk that is either in your neighborhood or in a community that you would like to be a part of. So there's no reason to stay in that one breakout room. If you want to be like Mark and support more than one walk, we'd love to have you hear more about those events. So each of those walks will have a breakout room, and you can join that walk that you're most interested in just by selecting join. And Deb, I don't know where you are, but she is going to be our main room moderator. So she can help you with any issues you have in joining a breakout room. So once you join a room, you'll learn more about the walk. And if you want to hop over, it's no problem. You can just switch rooms. Like I said, Deb Anderson will be monitoring the main room. So at this time, if there are no questions in the chat, which I don't see, we'd love to have you move all into the breakout rooms. And after you are done with your breakout room, we are going to close the event. So we're not going to come back to the main room. We're going to peacefully say goodbye to you all and wish you a good evening. And we will be following up with all of you to gauge your interest, to get you more information. And certainly if there's other areas of interest that you have outside of the walk, we have volunteer opportunities across all of our strategic pillars. So please without further ado, I'm going to allow you to join your breakout room and have a great time. And thank you all again, especially to our volunteers who are here with us tonight. Appreciate your time. So see you soon.